All right. Moving on here. Moving on. So bell ringer for today. All right. No, I want to go over the map first. The map. So the map activity that you had, I will put those grades in as soon as possible, probably towards the end of the period. You'll see those in. But you had an activity here, map of Europe, World War One. Did anybody do the game at all? Anybody play that? Any top scores? Hartman, what about you?
I didn't really play much.
You didn't play much of it?
No.
I got you. I got you. All good. All good. Okay, so let's go over this map real quick so that we all know what countries are where and we can move on. I'm just going to go over the basic countries that I want you to know. Okay, the main countries for each alliance. And yeah, that's it for the quiz. So I'm thinking of quiz yet for Wednesday. Thinking that for Wednesday. It'll be a Google form. I'll just have a map up on the board, and you can just complete the quiz, obviously with the form comparable to the map. All right, so let's start it off here. All right, what's this country right here? It's a little slither. What country? Alex, you know? Portugal, good job. All right, the one next door to it. Schultz, do you know? No? Anybody? Troy? Spain, good work. Good work. All right, this country right here, right above Spain. What do we have? What do we have? Jordan? France, good job. And what side were they on? The Allied powers, Central Power? The Allied powers, good job. All right, right above France, this island up here. What do we got? What do we have? Hartman? England, good job. And what side were they on? The Allied powers, good job. All right below here, this country right at the top, right at the Northern Sea. What country is that? Emma? Netherlands, good job. Right below the Netherlands. These poor guys really took the blunt of Germany through the Schlieffen Plan. Hartman? Belgium, good work. This little guy right here below Belgium, Emma? Luxembourg, good work. All right, so we already talked about the Schlieffen Plan. So a country marched through Belgium to attack France. What country is this right here? Schultz? Germany, good work. Good work. Okay, so this country right down here below Germany. What do we have here? What do we have? Emma? Switzerland, good job. Good job. So when we talked about the trench warfare expanding over 400 miles, those trenches in Europe, okay, this is where it starts, right? So this is where the Alps are, the mountain range, large mountain range. Obviously, they're not going to dig trenches through there. But the trenches expanded from Switzerland all the way up to the English Channel. Okay, right up through here. Okay, parts of Belgium, northern France. Okay, obviously Germany. Okay, even in portions of eastern France. All right, good. Right below Germany, we have Jordan, Austria-Hungary. Good job. What side were they on? Central Powers. Good job. Central Powers. And then right below Austria-Hungary, we have who? Which really pushed towards World War I with that assassination. Schultz? Serbia. Good job. Serbia. Okay, good. Serbia's right here. All right, now moving over here, right next to Germany and Austria-Hungary. Big old country. Hartman? Russia. Good job. Russia. All right, so those are main. Oh, one more. Sorry. Country down here. Different name today. Go ahead, Hartman. Yep, good job. Ottoman Empire. Good work. All right, and they were what? What side were they on, Hartman?
They were on the
Central Powers. I forgot to mention this one. What side was Russia on? Central or Allied? Allied powers. Good job. Good job. All right, so those are the main ones I want you to know. Body of water. What body of water is right down here? Troy? Mediterranean Sea. Good job. Good job. And then we're moving up here. What body of water is up here? Well, an ocean. Atlantic Ocean, right? Okay, what about this small channel right here? What's that called? Splits France and Great Britain. What body of water is that? Alex? English Channel. Good job. Okay, we have a Northern Sea, Baltic Sea, you name it. And then finally, one last country I forgot to mention right here, below Switzerland, right below Austria-Hungary, in the Mediterranean. Schultz?
Italy.
Italy, good job. And what side did they start the war on?
They started on the central highway.
Yep, good job. Good job. So they're at first with the Triple Alliance, okay? They're Central Powers with Germany and Austria-Hungary, okay? And then they went neutral, and then towards the end of the war, they were on the Allied powers. So when you color them in, obviously red at first. If you want to do like red and blue, that's fine. Whatever you wanted to do. Okay, there you go. There you go. So I hope you labeled all that on the map. And then number one, why would Germany worry about the alliance between France and Russia? So we know where France is, right here. Okay, Germany is right here, and then Russia. Why were they alarmed by this, Troy? Yeah, good job. So Germany would have to split their forces up, right? They would have to fight France on the western front, and then on the eastern front would have to fight Russia. So already they had to split up their troops and soldiers. Okay, good job. Two, based on looking at your map, what side seems to have the advantage based on the alliance system? Alex? The Allied powers, right? Because they have them surrounded. Okay, the Central Powers, we know, in the central portion of Europe, Germany, Austria, Hungary, Italy, even Ottoman Empire down here. But Russia's on one side, Allied power. France is on the other, Allied power. Great Britain on the other side. So already Central Powers are surrounded. We talked about that. We went over it. So make sure you have that filled in. Turn it in if you haven't done so already. I'll give you credit for it. There you go. There you go. Make sure we're still recording. Good. All right, moving on. Bell ringer. Bell ringer for today. Now we're done with psychology. As tensions grew in Europe with World War I, why do you think America decided to stay out of the conflict? So today we're going to talk about different perspectives of Americans for this war. Why do you think the United States decided to stay out of this conflict at first? At first. And current events for this Friday, the 20th. Dylan, I'll have you go. Okay. And then Caitlin, which I already let her know about. Let her know. So as tensions grew in Europe with World War I at the start of it, why do you think America decided to stay out of the conflict? So 1914, this was going on. Why did America say, you know what? No deal. Not getting involved. I'll give you another minute to work on that. We'll review it. I'll go over it. All right, so before we get started here, causes to World War I. What was that acronym I used to help you understand that? Schultz? Mania, good job. And what does the M stand for in mania? Go ahead. Yeah, militarism. Good. So glorification, build up the military. All right, A. The next A, what do we have? Oh, mania. Emma, do you remember? Alliance system, good job. So how all these countries group together to really just fight in this war. Good. So the alliance system, we already talked about the dual alliance with Germany, Austria, Hungary, changed to the triple alliance when Italy joined in. And then what power did that change to? Central or allied powers, that triple alliance. What did that change to? Schultz? Central powers, good. And then the opposition to the triple alliance was what? With Great Britain, France, and Russia. Alex, you remember? Triple Entente, good. And then they later changed to Allied powers. Good work. Good work. All right, so the alliance system, which we talked about and discussed. And we mentioned how Russia got involved with backing up Serbia with the next cause, which we'll get to the A soon enough. All right, N. What do we have for N? Jordan? Nationalism. What is nationalism? Good job. Strong pride for your country. National pride. Good. So like patriotism. All right, I. What was the I? Kira, you remember? Imperialism. Good. So bigger countries, stronger countries taking over weaker countries or territories for resources, raw materials, expand sphere of influence, establishing military bases, you name it. And finally, the last A. Hartman, you remember? The last A?
Alliance system.
What's up?
Assassination.
Go ahead. What do you say?
The alliance system or the assassination.
We already said the alliance system.
And the assassination.
Assassination. Good job. Who got assassinated?
Franz. Yeah, Franz Ferdinand.
Franz Ferdinand. Good, right? And where was he at? Do you
He
remember?
was in Serbia. Well, he was in the Serbian Bosnia.
Yeah, good job. Good job. So he's in Bosnia, right? And who assassinated?
He was a Serbian nationalist. I forget his exact name.
Does anybody remember? Anybody remember? Troy?
Princep?
Yep, good job. You have Rilo Princep. And what group was he belong to? What group did he belong to? Schultz? The Black Hand. Good job. Which is what?
The nationalist group.
Yeah, Serbian nationalist group. Awesome. Good job. So 1914, Franz Ferdinand gets assassinated, which lit the powdered keg, right? All these causes came together to start World War I. All right, as wars waging on in Europe, what was America doing? What was America doing? Did they get involved right away? Schultz, go ahead.
Were we still messing with the Philippines and stuff?
Okay, yeah. So imperialism, right? We were focused where at in the world? So where are the Philippines at?
The Western Hemisphere?
Yeah, so the Western Hemisphere, right? The Pacific Islands moving out into the Pacific Ocean. So the United States was a little preoccupied with that. There's some conflicts with Mexico I didn't mention, but all right, there's problems with Mexico trying to industrialize and really try to modernize these countries in Central America. So America's stepping back. They're like, you know what? We're just going to focus on the United States and how we can build up the Western Hemisphere. Okay, so you remember, all this is happening in the Eastern Hemisphere, in Europe. Okay, this was the hotbed. All this conflict, all these, the competition, the problems, issues here in Europe. The United States, we have we're separated. Okay, the Atlantic Ocean, we take that for granted. That's our best defense. Okay, that's really separating us from a lot of the world's issues. Okay, the United States just wants to make sure and maintain we have a strength. Okay, we have the almost domination in the Western Hemisphere that no one can really topple us on this half of the world. So as this war is raging on in Europe, the U.S. thought, well, the Atlantic Ocean separates us. They're far away. There's no way they'd really come and try to attack us over here because they're all preoccupied. They're all pretty much destroying each other. Let's just focus on ourselves, right? And you mentioned before Schultz with expanding out in the Pacific, claiming resources, territories, right? Okay, extracting resources and raw materials from these territories out in the Pacific, the Caribbean Sea, like we mentioned, okay, and expanding our influence in the Western Hemisphere. Good job. Good job. Also, where was the United States? What was their rank in naval power? You guys remember? Schultz? Third, right? Okay, so we see ourselves rising as a world power. But what about our land military, our land army? Was it something comparable to what Germany had? No, not even close. Not even close. What war did we fight right at the end of the 1800s? What war did we fight, Schultz? Spanish-American War. Good job. And Spain, they're a declining power. Okay, and we mentioned kind of the advantages the U.S. had, right? Fighting the Caribbean Sea, fighting the Pacific Ocean. Spain's so far away. Okay, it's going to be hard for them to supply and aid their troops and soldiers in these parts of the world. And with the U.S., how many months did that last? Was it a long war? No, not really. Okay, not many people. There were not many people died in that war. There's not many casualties. Okay, so when it came to fighting and this type of military fighting in comparable to the world, we didn't see the exact advancements that these other countries, like European countries, had. All right, there was no trench warfare. There was no new forms of weaponry like poison gas, mustard gas, chlorine gas. Okay, machine guns, tanks, airplanes. The U.S. was new to all this. They've never really witnessed or seen this type of battle or warfare yet. So when it came to land army, we were far, far behind. And we didn't want to throw ourselves into this war because we weren't prepared. We weren't ready for this new type of warfare, this new type of entanglement, right? Okay. And we tried to stay out of it as long as we could. Also, do you think these European countries are reliant on resources, supplies, armaments? Who do you think they're going to be dependent on for these supplies and armaments? Not only one side, not only the Allied powers, but the Central powers, right? So all these countries are dependent on U.S. manufacturing, industrialization, okay? Making finalized goods, making supplies for the war. So the U.S. was profiting off of this war, which sounds crazy, but we're aiding both sides. We're aiding the Allied powers and the Central powers, which we'll talk about today. Hartman, you got that? Mm-hmm. Is your desk fascinating or something? You just keep staring down at it? Oh, you're doing the country game there.
Yes, I am.
Okay, all right. We'll go over that at the end of class today. Maybe I can see if I can get like 30 seconds or something. We'll see. Who knows? All right, moving on. Moving on. Vocab terms. Just 2 of them. That's it. We'll talk about this Selective Service Act more tomorrow. But here we go. Isolationism and the Selective Service Act, 1917. There we go. All right, so what is isolationism? What is that? What is isolationism? Schultz?
Isolate and keep themselves from other countries, like what Japan is doing before we mess with them.
Awesome. Yeah, good job. Good job. So with the United States, we can stay isolated from these European world conflicts because the Atlantic Ocean, right, Pacific Ocean, we're far separated from the rest of the world. Okay, we don't have to get involved in these wars. Okay, we can stay isolated, we can stay far apart. Good. All right. So with isolationism, we'll talk about how that later changes, how the U.S. gets closer and closer to being involved in this war. Selective Service Act, 1917. What do we have? Troy, what do you got?
It was the draft.
Yeah, it was a draft, right? Okay. We mentioned how the United States, we're a little bit behind, comparable to what Germany, Great Britain, France, Russia, even Russia at the time, had as a land military. Okay. We need to try to advance. We need to try to become ready in case this war eventually may lead and reach the borders of the U.S. So we had to become prepared. And the only way to do that is to have this draft, to get soldiers ready for war. At the time, we only had about 150,000 troops ready to go, okay, and 70,000 reserve troops. Remember that the statistics I showed? Russia had about 5.8 million soldiers. Germany had about 4.5 million. Here we are with only about 200,000. Isn't that shocking? Yeah. In case this war happens, we need to be prepared. And that's what the Selective Service Act was all about. So anybody 18 going up to around 40 years old, had to be ready for war. Okay, males. Okay, men at the time, 1917. Okay. All right, there we go. So moving on today, we're going to talk about the perspectives in the United States about this war. All right, so Europeans are fighting the United States. There's three different types of perspectives on this war. Okay, number one, we had isolationists, which we just talked about, which was a term, right? So many people in the U.S. thought, well, we should stay isolated. There's no reason for the U.S. to get involved in this war. Okay, like I showed with the map. Okay, like I showed with this map here, we're so far away from these European countries because of the Atlantic Ocean that realistically, this war is not going to get to us. Okay, it's not going to come. It's not going to ever reach us. Interesting enough, it does eventually happen where the U.S. gets involved because of unrestricted submarine warfare, and maybe because Great Britain was trying to persuade us. We're going to talk about that with the Zimmerman note here soon. Okay, but at one point, it sounds crazy, but look it up. There are these cables that expanded all across the whole globe, went underwater, across continents, and Great Britain established them. And that was for communication. Best way to try to control your empire, especially with Great Britain, right? With India, Australia, Canada, parts of Africa, you need communication. And not only did Great Britain have this form of communication, but the rest of the world relied on Great Britain and their form of communication with these cables. Okay, it's pretty interesting. You guys should check them out. But with this communication, it ran through London. So let's say Germany during the war, okay, even beforehand, they want to try to communicate or have some sort of relations with the United States or Mexico, let's just say, for instance. It would run through London first. So who would control communication then? Great Britain, right? Great Britain. So anything that was received not only by Great Britain, but Germany, their opposition, it had to go through London first, which is very surprising. So when it came to foreign diplomacy, or when it came to trying to set up trade or communicate with other countries, it had to go through Great Britain first. And let's face it, if you were an enemy with Great Britain, like Germany was, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? Go ahead, Schultz. Communications cut, and that's exactly what happened, right? They cut the communication, and a lot of times they would just make up false and phony narratives of what was actually going on. Okay, fake news in a way, right? Fake news. So they would create these false narratives to really show who the enemy is, and Great Britain would relay this information to the United States of the atrocities that Germany was doing. Okay, not only in Europe, but in their territories, their land in Africa, and parts of Asia. And this would really create an enemy because they controlled the communication, they controlled what was received by other countries throughout the world, which I think is interesting. So with that, isolationists are hearing this information, like, you know what, let's stay out of this war. Okay, we're not going to get involved. Okay, eventually it will lead to a point where Great Britain's like trying to really drag the US into this war, and a lot of it because of this information. All right, so isolationists, let's stay out of the war. There's no reason for us to get involved. Interventionists, many US citizens thought we should get involved. We should help our allies. Okay, we should help these countries that we had an alliance with for many, many years. Obviously, Great Britain, France, right? Okay, but there were some cases where many people wanted to try to get involved on German side. Okay, with immigration, we know that the United States is this melting pot, right? Okay, where people immigrated to the US from all over the world. But number one was Great Britain. Number two was Germany. Okay, especially in PA, I think we can link a lot of our ancestry back to Germany. Okay, and this was a real fear by President Woodrow Wilson for many, many years. Okay, once this war really started, he's like, you know what? We can't really join a side here. Okay, if we do, if we try to join, let's say, Great Britain or France, a lot of the people in the United States that have German ancestry, German culture, they might rebel. They might start a violent protest in America. And that was a huge fear by President Wilson, and then vice versa. And that's kind of why we stay isolated at first. And then finally, we have internationalists. Internationalists thought, well, we should try to end this war. Okay, we try to think of some ways of peace before this war obviously reaches the United States, and in case of any issues that might arise or might happen. So internationalists thought, well, let's just try to end this war, but at the same time, let's make a bunch of money off of it. Okay, let's sell supplies, armaments, finalized goods, not only to Great Britain, France, and Russia, but to Germany, Austria, Hungary, Ottoman Empire, and Italy. Okay, which I think is interesting. So does that show the United States as a hypocrite in a way? Oh yeah, for sure. It's like, oh, we want peace, we want to end this war, but at the same time, who's profiting off of this war? Because we're staying isolated. We're selling these supplies and armaments to both sides of the conflict. The U.S. So did we really want this war to end, really? Probably not. At an economic standpoint, no. Moral standpoint, yeah. But let's look at it. These European countries that were superior to the United States, if they're all duking it out, if they're all going to war with each other, they're going to destroy each other eventually. And who's going to be the last power standing? Alex? The U.S., right? And who are these countries going to try to depend on in rebuilding? The U.S., right? Yeah, yeah. So it's looking pretty good for the United States, right? They're like, you know what? Let them kill each other over there. Okay, when it comes down to it, they're going to need us to rebuild. Schultz?
So the president was concerned about that, the immigrants. What actually ended up happening with that?
Well, they needed reasons, right? They needed reasons why they're going to join a side. And we're going to talk about the sinking of Lusitania, this unrestricted submarine warfare. So Germany's going to just sink anything that comes across the Atlantic Ocean. So passenger ships, people that really are not involved in the war, civilians, are going to be targeted by it. And that creates a big enemy, doesn't it? And then we're going to talk about the Zimmerman note, which was, received by Great Britain. Man, Germany's going to try to reach out to Mexico in order to attack us. And then they're going to split up the United States. So Mexico is going to claim Texas back. They're going to claim parts of California, New Mexico, Arizona. And then the rest of the United States is going to be taken by Germany. But guess who came up with that message? Great Britain. Yeah. So that's kind of how it goes. Yeah. I think it's a little fishy, don't you think? Wait a minute. But hey, I'm glad we did what we did, right? We wouldn't be where we're at today. All right, Wilson's neutrality. President urges the U.S. to stay out of war. Okay, like I mentioned before, we had immigrant groups all across the country, and especially from Germany. So if we join the war on the side of Great Britain and France, Russia, right off the bat, this might anger a lot of people in the U.S., particularly here in Pennsylvania, okay, and many areas in New York City. and places of urban areas. Okay, this might start a revolt. This might start some sort of uprising in the U.S. if we just join one side, and vice versa. Obviously, right? We have a lot of heritage from England, obviously. Okay, and how we speak, same language, culture, you name it. You name it. And then finally here, Wilson may have also wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to trade with both sides. So if we stay isolated, we stay neutral, this allows the U.S. to trade to both sides of the conflict. Okay, we open up trade with all the countries rather than just one side. And if we do that, we become a stronger industrial nation. We become more dependent at a world level. Okay, no longer do we just seek business transactions with the Western Hemisphere, right? Okay, we which I didn't really mention much. We try to build up Mexico to be this trading partner with the U.S. It didn't work out well. It didn't work out at all, really. So we have the possibility now to open up trade with European countries that understand and accept these new forms of industrialization and fixed goods and trading and markets. Okay. All right. Is there any questions on that? So the U.S. chose, well, we're going to stay neutral. We're going to isolate ourselves, and we're going to trade, and we're going to make a bunch of money off of this war. All right. That's all I got for that. Real quick, if you haven't done so, make sure you play that game here. Whoever has the fastest time with 100% gets an extra credit point on their quiz. So again, I'll go through it real quick. Let me restart this. All right, so we're looking for Greece. There it is, Serbia right there. We have Italy, we have Spain, France, Belgium, right there, Austria-Hungary, Portugal, Luxembourg, United Kingdom, Netherlands, Norway, Denmark, Romania, Switzerland, German Empire, Sweden, Russia, Albania, Bulgaria. Oh, 37 seconds. All right, I'm sure you guys can beat that. Right now, first period, Haley Klinger has 28 seconds, I think. It's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. So play that game. Whoever has the fastest score, right, screenshot it so we can prove it, obviously. We need proof behind it to see who actually won. And there you go. There you go. I'm going to play the video for the remaining class. And